Hey fam, what's good, what's good? I hope that you're well and keeping safe. I hope that you all had a blessed day. You know what, welcome back to another one where we're gonna find ourselves breaking down another trade I find myself taking. If you guys find yourself liking this type of content, make sure that you hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment in the comment section as well. Right, another thing I want to make mention of is the Patreon page, which I will find myself launching by the end of this month. Right, 30% off first month, whopping $7 for you guys. So you know what, I hope I'm gonna see you there. This will most definitely be the best investment you'll find yourself making, right? And this is literally me taking you guys with me on this journey of trading the Nasdaq. Okay, so other than that, without wasting no time, let's get into this breakdown. So you know what, today was one of those days where, you know what, stop loss get hit and then only you get take profit hit, right? So I would like to share this trade with you guys, basically my thought process. You know what guys, this is what you can find yourself expecting when joining my Patreon page. Okay, so obviously let me first share the actual trades with you guys. So you know what, this was the beginning of the trade, right? The trade never found itself forming just of yet. Well, the trade was there, but you know what, we first needed to tap inside this region right over here, right? As this area is serving as an area of supply. So with the tap inside this region, you know what, we just found ourselves going short on this beautiful peak called the Nasdaq. You know what, this is the second screenshot. You know what, this is where I found myself closing 50% off my actual trade, right? And then put my stops at break even the moment we found ourselves, you know, tapping inside the actual ascending trend line over here, right? And as you guys can see, we had a closure below. We came back right at my actual entry, boom, and price literally slammed. Take profit where we are currently still having the nice actual bear run towards the downside, right? Obviously, this was my actual trade when I found myself closing the 50% of my profit. Okay, so I would like to share this actual trade with you guys. Be with me. Don't forget to hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Look at this beautiful push to the downside. Okay, so if I can just find myself removing all the noise, I'm gonna find myself breaking down price from our actual 1 hourly time frame, right? And do the following. Well, let me rather start on my 4 hourly time frame. Okay, so this candle right over here, right, this candle was still in formation. Okay, but how I found myself viewing price was literally the following. Can you guys see that? You know what, we found ourselves taking out these beautiful highs, right? Price found itself taking out these beautiful highs just like that, right over there, right? Leaving a beautiful wick to the upside. Now that wick towards the upside was already giving me an indication that, you know what, our bias is probably struggling to push price towards the upside as they left us with a beautiful shooting star formation, right? Once you see a huge tail thrown towards the downside, well, towards the upside, a huge wick, right? This is a sign of rejection, right? Following up with a beautiful bearish engulfing candle right over here, right? So this was giving me an indication that, you know what, we are overextended towards the upside. We are inside some sort of initial premium area. So we do need some sort of a push towards the downside, right? That was my mind. My process during the time. Okay, keep in mind that this actual candle over here was still in formation. Okay, 2 hourly time frame. You know what, I was looking at the 2 hourly time frame as potentially creating some sort of an actual double top formation, right? Up, down, something like that, right? So I need to find myself monitoring price right inside this region over here, right? And wait for some sort of a change of structure or some confluence inside this region telling me that this is where we can potentially find ourselves having some beautiful shorts towards the downside. Okay, so with me looking at this area over here, I consider this area as being my actual correction for the next impulsive move towards the downside. Keep that in mind. Okay, keep that in mind. On my actual H1 time frame, right? H1 time frame, this is basically when I find myself just monitoring price, right? You guys can find yourself looking at the Nasdaq, right? And you will see around about 10 o'clock. Let me just find myself removing that candle over there as that candle wasn't forming just of yet. Okay, around about 10 o'clock in the morning, London session, right? South African time. This is basically when Nasdaq will find itself having some sort of a reversal, right? You don't have to believe me. Literally go into your charts, go look at a couple of days, right? Months whatsoever, and you will see it happen. Okay, so scaling down to the lower time frame, you know what, 30-minute time frame, I saw that, okay, cool, we are currently having this beautiful push towards the upside, but what can potentially tell me that, you know what, we can find ourselves having some sort of a, you know what, push towards the downside from this region onwards, right? Now on the 30-minute time frame, as I may mention to you guys, right, we can see that we do have a volume imbalance right over here, right? So with us basically creating this beautiful volume imbalance, right, this is currently serving as a potential area of resistance, right? A dynamic area of resistance to where we can potentially find ourselves having some sort of a turnaround, right? Scaling down to our actual 15-minute time frame, right? 15-minute time frame, you know what, we can see that this actual volume imbalance is lining up as well. Keep in mind, guys, these are things that I found myself seeing before the time. That's why I found myself showing you guys the actual screenshots as well. So clean. 15-minute time frame, you know what, we can see that we are inside this actual volume. Well, we created this beautiful volume imbalance over here, right? Telling me that this is a strong region. Okay, this is a strong region. So clean. This is basically when I then found myself taking out a beautiful, you know what, trend line, just like that. Boom, place it on the actual high, copy and clone it, and then found myself placing it on the low, right? Keep in mind what I basically said on the 2-hourly time frame. I'm looking at this as being my impulse, and then I'm looking at this as being my correction for a potential continuation move back towards the downside, right? This is how I find myself looking at when it comes down to bull and bear flags, right? I only want to identify these actual areas inside a correction, okay? Inside a correction. Anything within an actual impulsive move, this will basically be a channel, okay? Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, guys. Listen, don't forget to hit that like, hit that subscribe button, okay? So scaling down to our actual 15-minute, well, our 5-minute time frame, right? With us basically having this beautiful respect, I'm gonna find myself just forwarding price just a little bit until 10. Boom, right? Now this is 10. Can you see 10 o'clock? We find ourselves tapping inside this beautiful volume imbalance. Even if I can go down to the lower time frames, that's just my 4-minute time frame, right? We are currently tapping inside a beautiful order block as well. Okay, we are tapping inside a beautiful order block as well. So 5-minute time frame, this is when I find myself being patient, basically just waiting for my entry method, right? Basically waiting for the pattern to find myself going short. Right now, right over here, this is basically when we find ourselves creating our pattern, right? This is basically when we find ourselves just waiting for price to have some sort of a pullback and then find ourselves going short on this beautiful peak called the Nasdaq, right? Now, once again, right? This is me showing you guys the actual method which we find ourselves looking at inside the Takeover Forex Institute. And this is basically what we're going to find ourselves covering inside our Patreon page. Okay, so clean. The only thing we are waiting for is literally for price to have some sort of a tap, and we want to see Nasdaq have a beautiful shift towards the downside. Because keep in mind, right, the only time I find myself looking for shorts inside an actual flag, right, is when we find ourselves creating some sort of a pattern inside the flag. Okay, so this will literally give us like a, you know what, a early entry for price before price gonna have that actual shift towards the downside. Okay, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. So clean. All I'm looking for is for Nasdaq to have tap, shift, correction, boom. Right? Take profit, hit. Why this region? Because as I told you guys, once we find ourselves having a closure below an actual trend line, what do you wait for next? The shift back into the low of your trend line. Right? So we then find ourselves having the actual tap. So this is basically when we find ourselves going short on this beautiful peak called the Nasdaq. So I'm just gonna find myself going to the actual higher time frame, right? Maybe I should look at the 15-minute, right? So boom, right? With the actual 15-minute time frame, right? If I can maybe just adjust my actual my area, right? If I can just adjust it properly, because I do know with this actual candle towards the downside with the tap, right? This is basically when I found myself closing 50% of my trade. Okay, and with us closing 50% of the trade, right, this is basically me now finding myself putting my actual my stop loss at break even. Okay, at break even. So clean, we find ourselves fluctuating with price whatsoever, right? And once price find itself having a closure below, right, this is when I was like, okay, cool, on the 30-minute, right? Once price find itself having that closure below, this is when I was like, okay, cool, this is now, is it, right? This is take profit heat whatsoever. This is take profit heat. And boom, we had some fluctuation. You know what? With this actual candle going towards the upside, I wait for candlestick closure. It's super important to wait for candlestick closure. Okay. Boom, I saw some sort of a rejection. We didn't find ourselves having a closure above, right? So I'm looking at this as being the retest for that actual shift towards the downside, right? And literally, boom, price find itself coming back into my actual entry level, and then boom, back into my actual take profit area. Right? You know that song of Lil Uzi Vert? Damn! That's how I felt. That's how I felt. Now check this out. After that, boom, we just had a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful shift towards the downside. Right, guys? Once again, impulse, correction, and you know what? Impulsive move back towards the downside. Nothing complicated. Okay, so that was literally my trade over the course of today. I most probably will find myself uploading this over the course of tomorrow, as I will find myself breaking down this trade to the community in depth as well. So I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. It's me, your boy D. I'm out.